Hello there, Peppermint Pals, and welcome to an ink painting, probably the last Inktober related video. I know we're into November now, but this video was really supposed to come out in October. So we've got a little painting I am doing with ink, and this is actually on Yupo paper, which is a very interesting paper. I've described it before as being kind of plasticky, and that's kind of the best I can describe it as. So I decided to cut them out both for timing and just because I didn't think they were that interesting. But prior to making the full piece, I did actually do a couple little experiments on smaller pieces of Yupo paper that I'd gotten through an Art Snacks box, because I wanted to see how well it did with masking fluid and how well it took to ink. And I really wanted to test the masking fluid because I had learned by trying out something with Yupo paper a year or two ago that it does, when you try and erase on it, it will become resistant to, I don't know why, but it'll become water resistant when you use an eraser on it. So I wanted to make sure that didn't happen when you used masking fluid and then took it off. That whole eraser water resistant thing is why I drew the picture on a separate piece of paper and taped it to the back. And originally I was going to use a light box, but I found I didn't need it because it was so transparent anyway. So I may or may not have been subconsciously influenced by browsing the App Store on my phone and finding this app called ArtCat. I cannot remember what it was, but I got the idea to do the ink splots in the background, and then I thought about an artist character, and I thought, well, I always do humans, and somehow I got the idea for a cat, and whether that was subconsciously influenced by that or not, I don't know, but I painted this little artist cat, and I think that she's super cute. You'll also notice how I kind of moved the ink around because I didn't think the splots were quite creative enough. I still don't know if I like it, but I was trying out new techniques and everything. Now, what I'm doing here is soaking up the excess ink with a paper towel. You don't always want to do that, but I intentionally wanted to do it here because I learned through my experiments that with the Yupo paper, it will just dry very thick, and then when I try and take off the masking fluid, it will also take off, it'll either be stuck on there or it'll also take off some of the paint, the ink that I didn't want it to come off, so I very purposely soaked up the excess ink. I apologize, I forgot to record myself taking off most of the masking fluid here. And granted, it's probably not the most interesting part of this piece, but I always feel bad when I skip a part because every part's important to make the piece come together, and it just feels a little bit, I don't know, cheap. I wouldn't say incomplete, but yeah, I guess cheap to not do everything. One thing about the Yupo paper is because of its texture, it's on some basis easier, but also on some a bit more difficult in cases of putting on the ink evenly. You can certainly spread it around easier, but at the same time, it moves around on its own easier, and it has a little bit of resistance to the paper. Again, not as bad as if you were to erase on it, but there's somewhat of a resistance, and it almost makes it look very uneven, like you can see on her feet there. And I keep painting over and layering, but it's quite different to how you would do it, say, on like a piece of watercolor paper. In fact, when you first lay it down, I would almost compare it to coloring with a magic marker on a plastic bag. It just is so streaky, and you have to keep going over with layers. And I mean, that's kind of just the way the paper is. Now, I don't know because I haven't really used Yupo paper that much before, so I'm not very familiar with what kinds of mediums it works best with. Also, you'll see the bigger the area, the more that kind of uneven coloring shows up, like on her face. It looks very streaky. Also, I feel I should apologize for the reflection of the light. You know, sometimes you'll get that on my wet pieces, like when the paint is still wet, you might get that reflection, but you're getting it all the time on this one, and I think it's just, again, because of the texture of the Yupo paper, so it does interfere with this picture, just seeing the painting process. So I apologize for that, and some point when I can afford it, I should try and find a better art light, which would be very, very helpful. So, as far as my feelings towards this piece, the final product of it, goes, I think it's cute. You know, with pieces like these, it's difficult sometimes to judge because the point is the whole experiment and seeing how things work, how the paint or the ink worked with the paper and so forth. It's not necessarily the final product. Now, you do still want to make something nice for the final product, but that isn't necessarily the point. And as far as this piece goes, I don't hate it, but it's not something I'll hang on my wall. It's something I'll probably keep just because you shouldn't throw out your art pieces, or you should at least find a way to preserve them with a photo or something. I'll talk about that in another video at some point. But, yeah, I mean, again, the point was kind of to see how the paper and the ink worked with each other. Now, because she's a little artist, I wanted to give her some paint splatters all over her little artist smock. And I even moved them together because that's kind of what you'd probably expect to see on a smock. Just a bunch of different colors, and not necessarily in those little round splots, but in all sorts of weird shapes. Now that I see that, I wish that's what I had done for the background instead of using an eyedropper. It really would have made the paint splatter look that I wanted more. Not necessarily moving them around, but just kind of flicking the paint on there. So I guess I'll know that for next time instead of using the eyedropper. So the pen I am using here to line the kitty is the Superfine brush pen Zebra Sensations from my September 2018 Art Snacks box. So I really, really love those pens, and it came in handy here. Hey there, Peppermint Pals. Before we get to the end of this video, I just want to let you all know that I have a Redbubble shop with all my original designs. You can get all kinds of cool things and prints and stickers, and it'd really mean a lot to me if you check it out. Thanks, and now on to the rest of the video. So here I'm finishing up, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoyed the little cat. Oh yeah, I smudged her eye. Her left eye didn't look quite right, so I did fix it on the computer, which you'll see in the final slides, but I forgot to record that. But anyways, let me know if any of you have used Yupo paper and if you have any tricks for working with it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Bye.